Yeah, so did Hamilton just like read everything he could get his hands on?
Yes.
That's how he self-educated.
Yeah, he self-educated. He actually had a teacher on the island. I'm fuzzy on it because I haven't read it in so long. But he actually went to a Hebrew school on the island, so that was some of his early education on the island. Then he came here with the hopes of being a doctor. He applied to what would become Princeton, but asked to like accelerate his studies, and they said no.
Right.
That's what we reference in that opening song.
Yeah.
And Burr actually did go through Princeton in like 2 years when he was like 13 years old, but his dad was president of Princeton.
So that's gonna be helpful.
Again,
in that...
Malfoy.
Yes.
But so he went to a school that would allow him to study faster because he also felt behind. He sort of like landed here behind. So he was like, I'm smart. Can I graduate faster, please?
Yeah. Let me just get this over with. Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, but the importance of education it was so key for him. Even during the war, he's reading books on monetary policy in the event that we win the war. Because one of the things he learned, and this was actually a song I cut from the show, there was a song called Valley Forge I cut where he just talks about how their money's worthless because the British money is worth something and America bucks aren't a thing because they're colonies.
Yeah.
And so the irony of them fighting for American independence while the British soldiers can afford supplies and food and lodging and the Americans can't.
Right.
Because their money's worthless. So it hurt me to cut that song for the simple reason that monetary policy is not an abstract thing for Hamilton. He almost died. They almost starved to death. There were untold American casualties that winter because they were starving and they were freezing. It wasn't because of fighting. No one was fighting.
Right, they were just dying.
Yeah, they were just in a field freezing to death. And so having money that's worth something is actually a life or death thing in his brain.
Yeah.
So when Jefferson is like, this pamphlet, this thing is
who
too long.
Yeah, who cares about financial
We just want to be
policy?
farmers. And he's like,
boring.
you will care.
You will care because it might mean that you make it or you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So to switch topics slightly. So, obviously you've been asked by lots of different members of the media and journalists about gender blind casting for Hamilton, and you've said that you'd be down, other than that it'd be difficult to change some of the vocal ranges on some of the songs, but conceptually you like the idea. Absolutely. And
I think there's going to be so many Lady Hamiltons once this thing is in schools and in regional productions, and that's great. Like, again, I do theater because I fell in love with being in the school play in high school.
Yeah.
And I also remember the inherent unfairness. I remember directing West Side Story and girls trying out in a 9-to-1 ratio and being like, this sucks.
Yeah.
This sucks that like there's 2 great girl parts.
And
this show's a masterpiece and that's why I'm directing it, but like this sucks.
Yeah.
So, when Heights started getting released to school groups, and I started meeting people from all girls schools who were like, I was Usnavi, like girls being like, I was Usnavi. I'd be like, that's awesome. So that's going to go gender blind into the world, because, we want this to be the best school play ever.
Yeah.
And we want the people who want to do it to do it.
Yes.
And the other thing that I kind of continue to think about, and I have time to think about it, is finding ways to take the sort of really color conscious casting we've done and extend that into the school life, because it's so easy for a drama teacher to sort of just cast the kids who always audition, which aren't always the kids of color at school.
Yeah.
Because there aren't parts for them, and so they think, why am I going to be in My Fair Lady?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm interested. So I didn't know this about you. I was researching for this interview. You worked on West Side Story. Mm-hmm. You translated it into Spanish.
Yeah, I translated the sharks into Spanish. Yeah, that was pretty fun. And I wouldn't have done it if the original creators weren't involved. It was Arthur Lawrence.
It was Sondheim, yeah.
Arthur Lawrence and Sondheim, and it was Lawrence's pitch. He was very passionate about it. And so it was fun, but it was interesting. Like it only worked so well in terms of audiences. I always think of West Side Story as kind of the best musical. Like, it really is like, it's the most perfect synthesis of music and lyric and dance all sort of coalescing. And so I thought audiences will just go with us because they know how I Feel Pretty goes in English. So what is it like if it's in Spanish? But there was a lot of pushback.
Really?
Yeah, and the producers actually put back a lot of the English that I had translated because it's one thing, within the Heights we don't think twice about it to go back and forth between Spanish and English because it was built into it originally. Right. But messing with a classic comes with its own sort of pitfalls. And so people really pushed back. There were people who really liked it, and there were people who were like, can you just sing I Feel Pretty? I love I Feel Pretty. So I sort of learned the lesson of like messing with a classic. Even though I had the blessing and was working with sort of the creators of the thing, it was an interesting experience.
So What Was My Story, you worked on In the Heights, which I absolutely loved that musical too. Yes, and you just wrote music for the new Star Wars. So you've worked on so many different kinds of things, and I'm interested when I look at those pieces that you've dabbled in as a theme, like masculinity and what that really means seems to connect a lot of the pieces.
I guess you're right.
Look at that. Oh, I love it. I'm telling Lin-Manuel something new about his work. That makes me super happy. So I'm interested, within different cultures, do you see, like, perceptions of masculinity and what being a man should be? Do you see it differently within different cultures?
And sometimes it's funny what they are. Like, I remember, I was a vegetarian until I was about 13 years old.
No way.
Not for any political reasons. It was a tactile thing. I didn't like the feel of chicken. I just didn't like it. And so my parents both ate meat, and they were like, all right, we got to get protein in you another way. And so I ate a lot of eggs, which I didn't mind, and I ate a lot of fish sticks covered in ketchup, I guess. But then puberty hit, and like a switch flipped, and I went, oh, meat's great. Like, I don't know what happened. It was really biological, but I will tell you, my very old school Puerto Rican grandfather kind of looked at me like my whole childhood was like, he doesn't eat meat.
I'm worried about him.
He's not a real man. Like, I'm worried about him, and he doesn't eat meat. That somehow was the marker of manhood.
Interesting, though.
And then I started eating meat. I had my first filet of mignon with him at the Ponderosa Steakhouse in Puerto Rico, and he was like, oh.
And you got male approval.
Yes.
You got to sit in the man box.
And I was like, what the hell does meat have to do with anything? But in Puerto Rican culture, I learned as a child, meat equals manhood. Yeah, so that's like one weird sort of quirky one that I experienced firsthand.
That's really interesting, because I have guy friends who are very environmentally conscious, and there's so much talk at the moment right now about the fact that red meat is such a big contributor to greenhouse gas. It's like the number one, bigger than anything else. So if we just ate less red meat, we would instantly kind of reduce emissions. But for him, even though he's like super into this stuff, he's like, I'm a man. I eat red meat. I can't divorce the two.
I've never understood the meat man.
Me neither.
Correlation.
It's very confusing.
I know a lot of ladies who really like meat.
Yeah.
It's just delicious.
Yeah.
And like, it's so funny that that's become
a thing.
I don't know what that's a holdover from, but it's a thing.
I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, so that's
and then also, the other thing is like I'm a straight guy who writes musicals,
yes.
Which is
that's interesting. Do people think that you have to be gay to write a musical? Is that like have you ever
yes,
had that?
It's a little bit like being a white NBA player. I'm not sure why that is. One, boys who like girls, you're missing out if you don't audition for the school play. There's lots of girls at the school play. Also, boys who like boys also audition for the school play.
Yes, everyone
should audition for the school play.
Yeah.
It's to me, that's what sort of changed my life and made me figure out who I am for many reasons. I think when you're in high school, there's so much live or die drama in your grade.
Yes.
Like, this person likes this person's not talking to this person, and it feels like the most high stakes stuff in the world. And that's only been intensified by social media.
Yeah.
And for me, doing the school play meant I had friends in other grades. And I'm like, it's temperature's getting a little high in my hallway. I'm going to go hang out with my friends who are seniors who were in the play. And you have a little heartbreak when your friends graduate before you do, but you also it also gives you perspective on school in a way that lets you sit outside it.
That's so true. My favorite experience from being at Brown was I did a student production of Chekhov's Three Sisters.
Oh, fantastic.
And it was like you form such different friendships and relationships with people that you have to be vulnerable with like that and put yourself out there, and those friendships in that period of time was very meaningful.
It meant the most to me when Heights started getting done by high schools, because I was like, There's a generation of people who got their first kisses, Benny and Nina. There's a generation of salon ladies who are going to be best friends for life.
Forever, because of this.
Yeah, and that's really, like, by doing it is really, that's how I fell in love with theater. It's by doing it.
Yeah, totally.